Hello, it is Heather from The Reading Mama, and today I want to share with you another author spotlight, but I have audiobooks because I've only ever listened to this author. So I have all audiobooks, and I'll pop up pictures up here as I remember them. So I have read, let's see here, how many by this author? 3, 6, 8 books by this author all this year, and she is one of my all-time favorites now. I'm hoping to read all of her books because for one reason only. There is such a beautiful testimony woven throughout the stories, and her author's notes at the end are like a devotional in and of themselves. It makes me want to own every one of the books just so I can read those author's notes over and over again. So the books are phenomenal too, but they are just, as a Christian, they're amazing. So I'm talking about Terri Blackstock. Now, Terri Blackstock writes Christian suspense romance, and they are just phenomenal. Many of them are a slower burn. I'm not going to say slow burn. They're all clean, no spice, no swearing, and they are some intense and somewhat far-fetched when you think about it. You know, think like 24, the show. It's far-fetched, but at the same time, you want to know. Okay, that's a bad example because I really hated 24, but I digress. And so Terri Blackstock books, let me go through the series. I started with the If I Run series, and there's 3 of them. And in this one, it opens with a young girl who has stumbled upon a murder scene of her best friend. And she is afraid that she will become the lead suspect for multiple reasons that it takes forever to discover why. Along the way, so she becomes a fugitive. And along the way, there are different people who are trying to look for her. There's the police, but then there's also somebody hired by the family of the murder victim who has hired his best friend who's just come back. He was part of military police, and he is going out and looking for her. A lot of other things happen along the way because she is just somebody who wants to do good. Like that she ultimately believes in doing good and doing right. And you find her not only trusting in the Lord throughout, but she helps solve other smaller crimes along the way, inadvertently, just because she stumbles upon people who are struggling and she helps them in great ways. And so I really, really loved it. It's fast-paced. It's kind of gritty in certain places. You've got a lot of seedy under things going on, a lot of corruption, but it was phenomenal. And so I read that. That's 3 books. And then I read Smokescreen. This one was not my favorite. Smokescreen followed a woman who, is she divorced already, or is she going through the divorce? Sorry, I am having a summer cold here. I can't remember. She's either going through the divorce, or I think she already is divorced and he's remarried, I think is what it is, and she's going through a custody battle. And an old flame, pun intended there, comes back. He's a smoke, whatever you call them, the jumpers for wildfires, and he has come back to town after an injury. They hook up, things happen, there's a lot going on in the story. The part I didn't like so much about it was some of the things were just really unrealistic, but in general it was a really sweet romance, and she deals with drinking and things like that as a Christian, which is just a totally different perspective, and I really appreciated how they did that. Terri does a lot of books where people, so If I Run, she's not a believer and becomes a believer. Smokescreen and the other books I read were a lot of children of pastors who had done wrong or had wrong done unto them. And so that's what you kind of have going on here. Her father was a pastor and he was murdered supposedly by this old flame's father. Totally convoluted, really good. Very, it's a little slower paced, I think, than the others. Then I read Aftermath. Aftermath is that it reminded me a lot of the movie Vantage Point. But you had a young girl, you had a couple different perspectives. All of her books have multiple perspectives. But you have a young girl at a political rally. She's there because of the music person who's going to be there. And there is an explosion. And then you have to deal with all the things that come after it. There's a young man's point of view who is being blamed for it. And then there is his lawyer's point of view. And so it's very interesting. I liked it better than Smokescreen, I felt like the pacing was better. But the actual storyline, I liked Smokescreen better, if that makes sense. I don't know. but these are both standalone. And then I read another series by Terri Blackstock, and it's called the Moonlighter series, and I stumbled upon this, and it'd be perfect for Private Eye July. Moonlighter series is, how do you describe Moonlighter series? So you have a family of 4 children. You have 3 sisters and a brother. The very first book, the brother's wife is murdered, and he's blamed for it. His sister is a lawyer, a former lawyer, but her fiance had been murdered like a couple years before. And so that sister, who's a lawyer, is helping represent him, but they get the dead fiance's brother, who is a former policeman and now Private Eye, in on it. And through the course of the 3 books, all the sisters join the Private Eye firm in a different way, and different things happen to each sister along the way. And so it feels very far-fetched, and you're like, okay, there's no way that so much violence would happen to one family, and it all comes together in the end. And I should have known that, but it was just like, this is, I mean, it's interesting, it's fast-paced, I love the story, I love the storylines, love the suspense, but it feels very far-fetched until you get to the end, and then you're like, oh, that makes sense now, which is how a good series should go, right? And so that's what's going on in Moonlighters. Book 1 follows mostly the lawyer sister, Kathy, and also her former fiance, her dead fiance's brother. I forget his name. And so you have those 2 perspectives primarily. The next book follows her sister Juliet, and it opens with a shocker right out of the bag. I mean, just shocker. And then you deal with all the aftermath of that, and Juliet is struggling with it. At some point, there is just a spoiler here. It deals with some kidnapping, and all that turns well. Okay, I'm just going to spoil it for you because some of you are like, I can't handle it. As a mom, I get it. Book 3, I felt like it was more intense as a mom because you're dealing with the youngest sister who just had a baby, and there is some peril that the baby is put in at some point, and it was incredibly anxiety ridden. So you follow the 3 sisters, different things happen, and like I said in book 3, you finally all makes sense why all this stuff is happening to this family. So those are the 8 Terri Blackstock books I have read. I know she has some dystopian books as well that I'm hoping to read because I love dystopian. But yeah, like I said, throughout you either have believers who are helping others who are unbelievers, or your main character is the unbeliever and they have believers coming alongside showing them what it means. And I think she does it in such a natural way. None of it is beat you over the head. It's not like a whole bunch of big scripture written sermonizing. It's just woven into their daily dialogue, and it is such an inspiration as a Christian to see that, because you're seeing how it can just naturally play out to share Christ with other people. And you know, it's done really beautifully, and she has so many different perspectives. You know, the children in this family, their father was a pastor who didn't do what he said. You know, he failed. He failed as a Christian and did some wrong things, and that has affected each of them in different ways. And so you get that, and it just really is a beautiful, throughout the suspense, throughout the romance, throughout all these crazy things going on, you have just this beautiful woven testimony of Christ throughout. And like I said, those author's note at the end are devotional level author's notes. They are beautiful, they are encouraging, they are everything you need right there. So don't skip that, and just in general in books, don't skip that. But that's it's getting sunny. That's what's going on. That's what I like about Terri Blackstock. Tell me your favorite Terri Blackstock book, or the book that you would like to read by Terri Blackstock. And yeah, what's your other favorite Christian suspense authors? That would be a great thing to add as well. And if you have nothing to say, put some kind of emoji there for how you're feeling today. So thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day.